When Mercedes first announced that it would eventually drop the V8 engine from its glorious AMG models, I think a few enthusiasts might have had their heads exploded. Well, the downsizing isn't just happening at the tippy top, it's happening at the mid-level too. This is the 2023 Mercedes C43, and unlike the model it replaces, which had a twin-turbo V6, this one has a 4-cylinder. Today we're going to find out whether or not the engine downsizing is a good move for Mercedes AMG or a huge mistake. So let's start with a quick walk around of the C43. I think this is a very handsome luxury car. The new C-Class was just really nice when they revealed it. It really just looks kind of like a baby S-Class, which is not an insult whatsoever. We do have the Panamericana grille that is going to appear on most AMG Mercedes models. You actually get 18-inch wheels as standard on the C43. That's going to limit your top speed to 155 miles an hour. If you get the 19-inch wheels or these optional 20-inch wheels, that top speed is going to increase to 165 miles an hour. I actually like this wheel pattern. I think it's kind of cool with this kind of ring around it. As you can see, this particular press car has seen better days despite having a 360-degree camera. It's a little bit hard to see, but behind this wheel, you have a 4-piston front brake caliper, floating single calipers there in the rear. Now here on the side, we're going to see a badge that says Turbo Electrified. This is not an electric car, despite it saying electrified. We'll talk about what is under the hood a little bit later as we get it out on the road, because that is a major story. Now, from the side, this is, a rather attractive car, but it doesn't really stand out all that much, especially not in this sort of plain gray color. Mercedes really doesn't offer many colors on the C-Class. Let me tell you the colors that are available on the C43. Black, black, white, white, gray, 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 silver, silver, and blue. Those are your options. You get one actual color, which is blue. So yeah, not really going for the outlandish options here. Now here at the back, we've got our AMG logo. Even though this is a mid-level AMG, they are still putting an AMG badge on it. We've got our C43 logo over here. And we do have a sound package that I believe is going to change up the rear exhaust here. We've got these nice quad tips here. You can actually look in there and see that that is not actually where the exhaust is coming out of. So it's a little bit of a fake, but I do like how these look here on the outside, so I won't complain about it too much. Things get a little interesting here on the interior. While we have this kind of, blend-in gray exterior, that is not what Mercedes did with the interior, at least on this press car. We've got this black and red combination that I kind of think would look a lot more, it would look like it would belong in a Mustang, not in a Mercedes. It's just very loud. I don't know how many people are going to want to go for this particular color option, but hey, Mercedes likes being bold when they send me press cars. The C43 here has some specific AMG touches. So we have an AMG specific steering wheel with suede here on the outside, leather here on the top and the bottom. We have a ton of touch capacitive controls as well. We also have this sort of faux carbon-y finish here on the dash. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. So these seats are heated, but they are not ventilated. Ventilation is available as like a $700 option, but unfortunately this car doesn't have it equipped. I believe you can also get massage seats here, but these don't have that either. You can also get kind of like a racing bucket seat that is a little more aggressive than this. Not sure I would want that. I think I would probably just stick with these seats. Get the ventilation for $700 paltry dollars and call it a day. Definitely get the massage as well. All C43s are going to come with this giant 11.9-inch touchscreen. It's got the MBUX infotainment system. We do have some cool AMG functions under this Track Pace app. We have, we can put our race tracks up. So if you have a favorite racetrack near you, you can put it here and see where you're going around it. You've got a drag race timer, and we even have these cool telemetry dials that kind of go up as you drive along. So interesting on the AMG touches. We do have a 360-degree camera, as I mentioned before as well. So pretty good on the technology front here. We do also have some nice digital gauges up here. Very easy to customize these using our little touch capacitive sensor here. We do have a track pace dial. This is going to look very sporty. It's got our speed, gas pedal percentage, brake percentage. You can see as I rev it up, you can see the that actually moves. Down here we have like our AMG drive pace modes things, so you can go from comfort to sport plus. No race mode on this because they save the race mode for like the really sporty AMGs. You can see we also have a configurable individual mode, and we also have sort of like a snow mode as well. You can also configure like different parts of the car here individually. So if I want to turn the traction control off, I can do that here. I can make the suspension firmer without making everything else sportier. I can put on the loud exhaust or turn that off, put it into manual mode, turn off the stop start, which I can also do over here. Trust me, we're going to talk about that a little bit more when I get out on the road. And one of the things that I don't think I've seen before on a Mercedes is that you can actually activate the 3D camera from here. That's kind of nice. If you're driving in a city, you leave this on 3D mode. You're pulling up to parallel park, you push that real quick, and you get your 360 camera. I actually kind of like that shortcut is there on the wheel. We are in the Pinnacle trim, which is why we have the built-in navigation. It actually does not come standard here. We have augmented reality with that as well, and we also have a Burmester audio system on that trim level. Of course, when you buy a four-door performance sedan, you probably are going to put some people here in the back seats. So let me go ahead and show you that the rear legroom is decent. This is still a compact car after all. If you need a little bit more space, you're probably going to want to go for the E-Class. Now, unfortunately, there aren't that many amenities, so to speak, back here. We do have rear air vents, but no way to control the fan speed here. We don't have any USBs down here either for charging, so that is a little bit of a disappointment. We do at least have our nice armrest here with our pop-out cup holders. Last but not least, we actually do have some nice amenities here in the trunk. We've actually got one of those power tailgate things. You usually only get that on an SUV, but you can actually get it on a C-Class, which is kind of cool. So you just kick your foot forward and backwards there in the middle. It actually works really well, very easily. There's even a little sticker here that shows you how to demonstrate it. You can actually close this trunk automatically as well, which is really nice. We've got 12.6 cubic feet of space back there. The sidewalls are pushed out really well, and this opening is quite good as well. So I really do like this trunk. We have some little hooks right here for our groceries as well, and putting down the seats is super duper easy. You've got a switch here on each side that's gonna just go ahead and drop down those seats. So in terms of cargo capacity, the C-Class is actually really good. So I do happen to like it there. The back seat could just be a little bit nicer. All right, now let's get on the road with the Mercedes C43. Remember that this is the mid-level AMG version of the C-Class. It's meant to compete with cars like the BMW M340i and the Audi S4. And the big story here is that under the hood, the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 is gone. It is replaced by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, just one single turbo, but it does have F1 technology, so Mercedes says. It's a mild hybrid turbo setup. So basically, the simplest way to explain it is that it's going to use the electric motor to spool up the turbo quicker. Theoretically, what that means is less turbo lag. The turbo is already spooled. You don't have to wait for the exhaust gases to get it spinning to its fastest speed, and that should result in better acceleration and better performance. So the numbers that we get out of this engine are 402 horsepower. That is wild for a 4-cylinder engine, and 369 pound-feet of torque, which is also good, and that is going out through Mercedes's 9-speed MCT wet clutch automatic transmission. Now, what's interesting about those horsepower and torque figures is that even though the power is greater and the torque is less, the fact that this has 2 fewer cylinders and 1 fewer turbo than the outgoing C43, it actually got a little heavier, if you can believe that. And because of all of those factors, it's actually a little bit slower to 60 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do now is bring the car to a full stop. I'm going to put it on the drag race mode so that I can measure the 0 to 60, and we're going to do a race start. It's actually very easy. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, and we should be on our way. Ready? That's 60 dealt with pretty quick. Let's see what it measured. Oof, That was actually a really quick 0 to 60. So according to the car, maybe the car is fudging its numbers a little bit, but this says 4.23 seconds to 60 miles an hour. So that is a little bit quicker than the actual estimate from Mercedes-Benz. You see, according to Mercedes, this car will hit 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds. So the Germans just always being super conservative with their 0 to 60 estimates. So this car is actually a little bit quicker than Mercedes says. However, the old C43 could do 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. So no matter which way you slice it, the new car is actually slower than the old twin-turbo V6. Ready? Whoa! Come on. Going in the other direction, I measured a 4.23, exact same. Okay, so it's really consistent, at least. And I think you might have heard everything that was going on. This thing kind of does what the electric AMGs do, and it creates this kind of like fake noise in the cabin that is kind of cool on an EV, but is kind of like silly on a gasoline engine car. And the other thing it does, it tightens the seatbelt, so it gives you a feeling like you're going faster than you really are because you're pinned back to the seat. I kind of liked it for all the drama when I drove like the EQS AMG, but I'm not so sure I like it here on this car. So now that we know that the new 4-cylinder C43 is actually slower than the old V6 C43, let's at least talk about how it drives. So the 43 is not the most comfortable car, especially not when you're driving it around in Sport Plus mode. We do have AMG tuned adaptive suspension here. We have 4-wheel drive, the 4MATIC all-wheel drive tuned with an AMG flare. And we also have rear steering as standard here on the C43. So this car does feel really nimble, I'll give it that. But I'm not sure that I like it quite as much as something like an M340i. The steering is pretty good, and this engine, oof, as long as you have it on boost, which is most of the time because you have this mild hybrid system, you know, keeping the engine kind of always spooled, it feels really, really quick at all times. Like, it definitely feels like it has 6-cylinder levels of power. Oof. But that being said, this 9-speed automatic transmission, I like it when you're driving like really crazy. It rips off amazing shifts, but it doesn't do the comfortable thing that well. So if I'm going to go ahead and put it back in comfort mode, it holds gears a long time, even when you kind of demand acceleration. So in comfort mode, I'm going to go ahead and accelerate. We're in 4th gear, 4th gear, 4th gear, 4th gear, 4th gear. There's 3rd. It really wants to rely on that torque, and it has less torque than the old V6. So when you're kind of driving around normally, it just doesn't feel as quick as the old V6 car, even though when it is really unwound, it sometimes does feel a little quicker. It's a really weird thing. And then when you're driving around at traffic speeds, like sort of low, you know, neighborhood speeds, it does some kind of weird shifts sometimes, and it'll just kind of feel jerky, and it's really hard to be like smooth in this car. I actually had a couple passengers tell me like, "Whoa, this car is not comfortable, Jared." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm trying my best to, you know, to make this car comfortable, but you have to drive it like really smoothly." And then there's the stop-start system. This is probably my biggest complaint about the drivetrain. And it's odd because I've driven mild hybrid Mercedes before that have some of the smoothest stop-start I've ever felt. You know, it can shut the engine off. It has a little bit of hybrid power, so it can very smoothly shut the engine off, fire it back up, no problem. But for some reason, this 4-cylinder AMG setup is just the exact opposite of smooth. So I'm going to attempt to explain what it's doing here. So because it's a mild hybrid, unlike a gas-only car, it doesn't have to wait for you to be fully stopped to kick off the engine. It can do it at about, let's see when it's going to do it, at about 5 miles an hour. It's going to kick off the engine. So I'm still rolling right now, and it decided to kick the engine off, but then it decided to kick it back on. So it just isn't good at determining when it should kick off and when it should kick back on, because I've actually figured out how to kind of time it. Stop, start. There we go. Stop, start. but I'm still rolling. Engine off, haven't stopped yet. Then I let off and it fires. And then after it fires, the engine just is like, what? You confused me. I wasn't ready for that. And it doesn't feel very cohesive. I have either driven it in Sport Plus mode, which will just deactivate the stop start, or just hit this button below the engine start button to just deactivate the system altogether, because I really hate it. So yeah, overall, I'm not super blown away by this new C43, and I'm the first guy to be like, nah, listen, you know, you're making too much out of it. The fact that it's not a V6 anymore, that it's only a 4-cylinder, it could still be a really good car, but the execution of this is just not what I was expecting. It's a decently comfortable car. Yes, like I like that the AMG-ness of it didn't like ruin the daily drivability, but there is no way that I like this as a daily driver better than a regular C300. So if you just want a Mercedes C-Class, get the C300 and save yourself some money. You're still getting a 4-cylinder, it's just not as fast, but I don't know, this just isn't this cohesive experience to me. And if you want an actual sports sedan with a really great engine that just drives really well, I think you're better off with the BMW M340i. And honestly, I think that the S4 is an equal or maybe even better luxury car than this. So sorry, Mercedes, I get what you were trying to do here, but I don't think it came together all that well. So that was the 2023 Mercedes C43. Pricing is going to start at just under 60 grand for this mid-performance level C-Class. You can step up to the Pinnacle trim for $62,700. It's going to get you built-in navigation, head-up display, and the Burmester audio, which you can get separately, so I don't really know why there's a whole trim level for Pinnacle, but that's besides the point. This one that you see here, which is not even fully optioned, is about $70,000. That is kind of on par with the options from BMW and Audi, but as we saw, I'm just not sold about this 4-cylinder hybrid setup. I think I'd rather have the single turbo V6 from Audi or the inline 6 turbo from BMW. I think those are just more cohesive cars, or if I just really wanted a car with a Mercedes badge on it, I think I'd probably go for the base C300. And as always, if you enjoyed this look at the 2023 Mercedes C43, be sure to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read more about the Mercedes C43, be sure to check out my full written review over at carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.